In this video, we'll be discussing about error handling in JS, right? So there are different types of errors which we come across in any programming language or when you write any program, right? So handling them is very important because it depends on how your application is going to behave when certain unexpected things, because obviously everything is not perfect in the world. So you get unexpected things happen in your program, then automatically you have to handle them graciously, or maybe you have to report that error. You keep seeing, you see that, right? Like a pop-up comes that your computer might have restarted unexpectedly. Do you want to report it? Because when you report the errors, then those errors can be handled very well, and we can figure out, is it a runtime? So we'll see first what are the different types of errors: runtime errors, compile time errors, and programmatic errors, and operational errors, right? So we'll see different types of errors first, and then we'll see how you can handle error handling in different cases, right? In callback pattern, in, I would say, in promises where then catch is there, then we have try catch, and how do you handle exceptions in multiple or inner functions, right? So let's look at all of them in detail, and let's try to understand a very good knowledge, or very deep of errors in any program, right? So let me create a new file, uh, errors.js, right? So first we'll see what are compile time errors, what are runtime errors, what are operational errors, what are programmatic errors, what are functional errors. So some might be look similar, like operational, what are programmatic errors, right? So compile time errors, right? Compile time errors are those errors which come because you make a syntax error like this. I declare a variable, or I just put something like this. See, this is a compile time error. I cannot even run this file, node errors.js. So see, syntax errors. So all the syntax errors go under compile time errors because the code is not even able to be read. So something like this, where a equal to function, and I stopped it. So here it's already saying me that this is a compile time error. So compile time errors are easily identifiable. I mean, you are not able to run the code, so they are not a big problem to us while you're writing the code. So compile time errors, since you can't do anything with those errors in place, then you can fix them. You just need to know the language standards and all, right? The other errors, so compile time errors are this which happen before even running the application. The other errors, that is runtime errors. Runtime errors are very problematic, right? Because they occur at the runtime of your application. So you started the application and everything is running fine. Suddenly, the runtime errors occur. Like maybe you are trying to access, an element in an array out of its size, array out of bound, and you try to divide a number by 0 suddenly, because you have written a code wherein you are dividing a by b, and suddenly b value comes 0. That's infinity, right? So how do program deal with it? So these are called as runtime errors, and there are different runtime errors. We'll discuss about this, but these are called as programmatic errors because they happen because of your program. Uh, Totally, your program is responsible for those errors, right? And operational or functional errors, we'll discuss them. So one type of errors are this, where the program itself is not handling that. Maybe you have to put an if condition like this: if b is not equal to 0, then only do this. Then that error is avoidable, right? Then that error is avoidable. So programmatic errors can be solved or can be avoided by practicing some good methods, or maybe deep diving into your code and understanding each line of code what it is exactly doing, right? So then we have other errors, operational errors, right? Operational errors are something which happen due to network failures. So operational errors are something which you cannot think of, or you cannot even imagine, but in a safe side you can think, what if the network is failed, then what I have to do? So let's say I'm trying to fetch the data from some remote server, right? So I'm trying to fetch the data from some remote server, and that remote server was always functioning well, and suddenly the remote server is down. Now those are called as operational errors. So why? Because the remote server, it is a dependency now. Your application is depending on that service, and that service is down. You cannot do anything with it, and your code is perfectly all right. So how do you handle such kind of errors? Like DB connection is down suddenly. You are querying a DB and DB is down, or DB is overheat, over memory. It's running out of memory because you inserted some lot of data and it's running out of memory, or CPU usage is high, right? So if you list down operational errors, CPU usage is 100%, right? And then DB is down, or remote server is down. So all these are integration errors, or dependent errors, right? Dependence errors. Now there are other types of errors, like the code where your application is running, suddenly that system went down, right? So those are completely gone. I mean, you cannot do anything with this because the system where you are running the code, that is itself down. These are integration, like where you are integrating with other systems. Those errors are, to some extent you can do something. We'll discuss what you can do, right? But when your system itself is down, even in that case, you have to do gracious shutting down. Gracious shutdown. So let's say suddenly my system is going to shut down, so it gives a signal to us. So whenever your Node.js server is getting down, it gives a signal to us, and based on that signal, if you're trying to open a connection, or maybe you're trying to open permanently something, so you have to close, right? So gracious shutdown is possible Node.js with the process dot on exit. So see, process dot on or process dot there are some events, process dot exception. So you see, these are the different events which are present to us: signal pipe, signal error, or disconnect, or before exit. So uncaught exception. So when you're not catching any exception, we'll see what are exceptions. So in such cases, you can handle them graciously. And when there is a CPU usage is 100%, then you cannot do anything in such cases. When DB is down, you try to reconnect to the DB. You in your error handling case. So when you get an error from DB saying this is down, you try to reconnect to it. And same way, when the remote server is down, you do exponential retry. First retry. So retries means maybe you are retrying for 10 minutes with fixed delays. Like for every 1 minute, you are calling the server. So 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. Then there is exponential delay. So first retry will happen at first minute, second retry will happen at second minute, 2 minutes, after 2 minutes. And third one will happen at 3 minutes, and fourth one will happen 6 minutes, and the next one will happen around 10-12 minutes. So exponential. So instead of doing every 1 minute gap, so from here to here it will wait for 2 minutes, from here to here it will wait for 3 minutes. So overall the waiting time is increasing because it maybe the server gets up or anything like that. So exponential delays solve the remote servers or remote APIs being down, and when DB is down, you try for some time and then you graciously shut down your application. Or maybe you can completely avoid that by not making your application dependent on DB. For a moment of time, if your DB is down, you can use some temporary DB. That's a very rare case. Like big applications do that because they don't want to lose or they want to go down for even 10 minutes, right? And functional errors. Functional errors are totally relevant to your application. So you designed those errors. You saying that if a username is above 10 characters, then I am throwing an error because I want to. That's my functional aspect of my application. So I can't store a number which is greater than 100, or I can't store the age of a person who is greater than 100, or I cannot accept a birthday which is in the future. So functional errors are totally applicable or relevant to your application, and you cannot say what are general functional errors, but it is based on the functionality which you provide to users, and you define your own custom errors in this functional error case, right? So now we'll see what are the different cases when you get an error, or how do you handle it, right? So first thing is, there is an inbuilt error class in Node.js. So see, inbuilt error class. If I see here, constant error equal to new error. So this is an inbuilt object, right? See, it's an inbuilt object inside the error class, right? So error takes name, string, and stack. Right, so whenever an error is thrown, and now you have different types of error: range error, reference error. See, reference error is there when you are trying to access a variable which is not declared, and you have syntax error which you have just seen, and type error. So when your type is mismatched, URI error. So there are different types of errors provided to us by our Node.js. Right. So first, let's see a function, okay, a comma b, and this function takes another callback. This function takes another callback, and what it does is, if a plus b is greater than 0, or if a plus b is greater than 10, then in our case maybe it shouldn't be possible. Right? Function sum. Then it is saying callback with new error, saying sum is greater than 10, else return a plus b, something, whatever your application can be, right? And then now if I say sum 10, 1 comma 2, or let's say 10 comma 20, obviously the sum will be greater than, and now my first argument is going to be error, right? Or here what I can do is callback. So in handling callback, what you do is null comma a plus b. So in callbacks, what we do generally is, whenever you want to create a new error or whenever you want to throw an error, you either always keep the first object as error and the second object as output. So now what will happen? Your function will be like this: error and result, right? Now if error object is null, or if error object is not null, then it means the callback is executed with some error. So somebody called the error with an error object. So console.log error.message comma error.name comma error dot stack. Right, now I will call this sum function in main. Right, I'll call this sum function in main and main function over here. Now when I run this code, node errors.js, so see, I got sum is greater than 10. Sum is greater than 10. This is the error dot message, and error dot name. If you just remove this, you will understand. Or I can say error dot message and console.log, error dot name and console.log, error dot stack. Right, so message name is going to be name and then stack is going to be stack. Right, then when I run this code, so see, this is the message and error dot name is the error. So whatever you construct inside this, whatever you send as an argument as a string, this is assigned as error dot message, and then error dot stack gives the complete stack trace where the error has occurred and how did that occur. Right, so see, sum is greater than 10. It occurred at the line number 26. It occurred at the line number 26. Right, and the next stack, who called this callback? It happened at 32. So here 32, this is the callback. Then 40, because we called main, so it appears in the reverse direction. 40 called main. So from 40 we went here, and then from here we went the callback, and then the callback gave the error. So this is how the entire error object is read in case of the callbacks. Right, now we will look at the promises types of errors. Right, so now let me convert the same function. To return a promise. Right, so, or let's say it will be adding after 2 seconds. Right, after 2 seconds. So return new promise, because this function is going to take some time. So promise will take resolve.reject. Right, and it gives the callback function. Right, callback result comma reject. If now we'll do set timeout. Right, set timeout function, it will be called after 2000 seconds or 2000 milliseconds. Then the same logic, if a plus b is greater than 10, then I am rejecting my promise with a new error, saying new error or sum is greater than 10, right? Else we will resolve with a plus b. So instead of callbacks, now I am depending on the timeout or the asynchronous function. Now it is giving after the response is after 2 seconds. So this is how I done. Now how do you chain this, or how do you execute this using the then block? Sum a comma b 10 comma 20, right? Dot then result or you assign another chain called as dot catch. So error, right? So when the promise is resolved, then it enters into the catch block, console.log result, otherwise it goes into the error. So if I just print the entire error object, now I run it, so see, sum is greater than 0, I got an error over here. Error occurred. It gives the output after 2 seconds and see error occurred. So this error printed the entire error stack and the error message. So this is how you are going to handle the errors. So maybe you want to, when such errors occur, you want to retry, or you want to do something, you want to inform something, you want to give an alert, whatever it is depending on your application. Now the same thing, how do you have to do in the latest async await, right? Function main async await, then try catch is equal to, so we made the function async, right? Then whatever error is thrown, constant result is equal to await sum 10 comma 20, and then console.log error, right? So now if you run this code, oh, I have to call the main function. Yeah, now if you run this code, so see, sum is greater than 0. So this error block is reached, right? So this is how, whenever you wrap your code, so let's say there are hundreds of numbers, okay? So let's say there are function difference. Now this function, if a minus b is less than 0, then it says difference is negative, and here it is returning a minus b. So let's say you have multiple functions, right? Constant result is equal to, or constant sum is equal to this, and difference is equal to diff of 10 comma 20. Now also the difference will be less than now, but what I am doing is I am trying to send a value in the sum, right? I am trying to, so sum will be success, sum will be resolved, but difference will not be resolved. So if you see here, see, first the reference error, so you straight away got the reference error. So sum cannot access sum before initialization. So here there is a problem. Sum of numbers, we'll add this, and difference of numbers, right? So see, now when I execute this code, right, so difference is negative, sum got successful, but difference is negative. So whenever you write a code in try catch block, no matter at what line you are getting an error, that error will be caught by the catch block, right? So from the catch block, you can again rethrow the error like this. So let's say this main function is being called from another main, like this function another main, and you feel that I am not the right person to handle this error, but I'll throw this error to my caller, like this constant or await main, right? And now console.log another main, right, error. So if you want to throw the error, or if you don't want this function to handle the error, you can rethrow that same error. You can rethrow that same error in this fashion. And here, so see, if I make it the syntax error. So await is used only in valid async functions. So I have to make this async, right? And then when I run this code, see, the stack trace will now be differentiated. Difference is negative, right? So another main. So what I did is, from the main function, I rethrowed the error. to this function. So another main. So the error came till here. So you can keep on rethrowing if you feel that you are not the right person to handle this type of errors, right? And let's say you didn't add any try catch block, right? You didn't add any try catch block. Maybe you forgot, right? That's how we do. Like we humans, we forget everything, right? Now what will happen? I didn't add any try catch, so nobody is there to catch the error which is thrown by the main function. Now what will happen? So see, now you get a different error. Node.js difference is negative. Or if I remove try catch from here as well, right? See, who is logging this error? We didn't write, nobody logged this error. Nowhere in the code. But how is this error being printed? So this is reached to the default Node.js engine. So Node.js engine is going to handle this error by itself. So we are not catching any errors, right? So these are called as unhandled errors. So when there are unhandled errors in Node.js, Node.js itself catch that exception or whatever the value is. So when you write like this, process dot on uncaught exception console.log hello, right? See, so when you defined this error, when you defined this event handler, so what happens is when there is no error block or when there is no one who is catching any errors, so Node.js handles that by default. And how is it handling? By throwing an event called as uncaught exception. Now you don't see the error being printed because if there is any function handler attached to it, so this uncaught exception is the one which handles all the exceptions, general one, all the exceptions which are not taken care. So that's what Node.js provides to us as well. So uncaught exception can be very useful. So see, if you see process.uncaught exception, so this uncaught exception is really helpful. So in cases where you don't know where the error is going to be, or you don't know what will happen in your system, or maybe you don't know somebody is writing your code. So by maintaining this uncaught exception, you can handle all of those errors at one singular places. So see, now I missed catch block in two places, right? Over here and here. See, now whatever error was not caught in any of these two places, it has been reached over here. It has been reached over here. So now let's say I increased this value, right? Now when I execute this, now the error is different. So here in the uncaught exception, so that's the default behavior, or this is the safest behavior you can implement. So this is very important in implementing the process.uncaught exception. It is saying that when no exception is caught by anyone, then I'll be your life savior. I'll handle those exceptions and I'll deal with them. So these are the high level overview of the different error handling, right? So few people believe that they might need multiple try catch for each asynchronous function like this. So let's say this function is calling an API, and when this API fails, you can, in the catch block, you can retry calling that API for multiple times. So that is also possible. You can have multiple try catches in the same code. So when you do like this, and you're wrapping your entire code in another try catch, So the inner try catch first gets the exception, and if the inner try catch tries to rethrow the error, then it will go to the next higher error, and then here also I'm throwing the error. So I'm just rethrowing, I'm doing nothing. So, but usually what people do by doing like this, when they wrap it inside multiple try catch, what they are willing to do is, if any error happens in difference, or maybe when calling an error API or anything, in that cases they try to retry over here itself multiple times, and then they go below, and even if multiple times it fails, then they rethrow the error. So this is on error handling in Node.js on a very high level, right?